All right, welcome back to the Diabolical podcast. I'm Eric Kane. I'm here with the creators of The Dragon Prince, one of my favorite shows on Netflix. Do you guys mind just introducing yourselves?
Sure, I'm Aaron Ehasz, one of the co-creators of The Dragon Prince.
And I'm Justin Richmond, the other co-creator of The Dragon Prince.
Well, thanks for being on here, guys. So we haven't talked in a while. I know we talked back kind of when this show first kicked off, maybe around season 2. I don't really remember actually.
Yeah, I think that's right.
But yeah, but now there's 3 seasons out, and it ended kind of on a pretty big note, kind of almost like a mini finale, like series finale is what it felt like to me. Like it really wrapped up a lot of loose ends, and then I got this nervous feeling that Netflix was going to cancel the show.
Oh boy.
Because they do that a lot, and so I was pleased to hear that was not the case. And there was something. Actually, it was kind of crazy because you guys got renewed through, what was it, season 7?
We did.
Yeah.
And by the way, like, credit where credit is due. I think you wrote a terrific piece about the Dragon Prince that generated a lot of interest, and like in particular grabbed a lot of interest in some kind of mainstream channels that aren't necessarily animation or games focused. And I don't know, that very likely contributed to a fantastic spike of interest and energy around the show, kind of right as season 3 was coming out. That got us the energy to keep it going, to keep the saga going. So thank you for
That's
that.
good. Oh yeah. Well, it's all true, so that's the important thing. But yeah,
Okay.
the Dragon Prince. I mean, my kids love it. My girlfriend loves it. I love it. It's a really great fantasy. It's a great character drama. I love that it's a kids show, but it has complex characters and some of the stuff you'd find in more grown up shows, I guess, but for a wider audience, I would say. But
Thank you.
I wanted to ask a little bit about that renewal. That does seem kind of unique in the Netflix, really. Well, I guess in TV in general. Was that what happened with that? How did that go down?
I mean, I think it is pretty unique, which is to say, even quite early in our kind of relationship with Netflix, they were saying to us, "Hey, we know you have an ambition to tell this big sprawling many season saga, but we usually make a couple seasons of something, and a couple seasons of awesome is how we usually do things." And so when they kind of initially came to us, they bought a limited order, which they eventually expanded a bit, and um, we were kind of always grappling with, like, we were saying, "Hey, we want to tell this whole story," and they were saying, "Okay, but make sure that if we only make the seasons that we're committed to, that it's something awesome that we can all feel proud of, we can all feel good about." And so that's why ultimately the kind of decision point ended up being focused around the end of season 3, where we knew um, there was a chance that was it, and that we would high five and hug and move on, and that would be a little sad. But that we knew we wanted it to feel whole and awesome. Um, but also we knew Justin and I knew we were setting up something much longer. And so, our hope and our faith was in kind of a growing audience and community that were, finding the show and wanting more of this saga and asking for it and pushing for it. And I mean, I think a combination of factors came together. One is that engagement level and that interest. It wasn't just, like we used to say, like, it wasn't just eyeballs that they were getting with Dragon Prince fans, but they were getting heart balls. They were getting, like, people's, like, much deeper commitment and engagement. And so, you hope that matters, that it's not just that a person watched, but that they watched it and they connected to it and in an important way. So I think that Netflix saw that in the way people watched the series and the way they completed it, and in kind of engagement patterns they saw. So that was a huge positive. There was really kind critical response, and that's important too. But then I think ultimately it was that there was a surge of interest and even growth in that audience and community as season 3 was coming out, that made it, you know, something where Netflix was like, great, this is in everybody's interest to keep it going and tell this story and finish it, or at least build it out. So I
Nice.
rambled. I'm sorry.
It's okay. That's what podcasts are for. Lots of rambling. That's cool. How did I guess in terms of this past year, which has been crazy? How did that impact your guys' ability to work on the show and on all the other projects you have going on?
Yeah, I mean, I think we got really lucky in a couple of ways. One is that our CTO is brilliant and got us set up to work remotely like a week before COVID. Like literally, actually, the day that everybody went home forever or for a year or whatever was actually going to be a take home test for us. We were going to be like, okay, everybody load up your machine, take it home tonight. It was like a Thursday. And then tomorrow and Friday, we're going to try and work remotely and see what happens. And then like, we'll come back on Monday and we'll discuss what we're going to do. And we were like, at the end of the day, we were like, everybody take all your stuff home
Yeah.
and we're just going to work.
And we didn't come back on Monday.
And we did not come back. Yeah. And now we're like a year and a half later. So that helped a lot, having just really smart technical people help us get set up to work remotely as a company. Right. And then, it was actually kind of nice because our writers room adapted really quickly to sort of working on Zoom. And like, there are definitely pieces of the process that suck more. Like there are definitely like certain kinds of parts of the process that are not as much fun, but like overall, I have to, give props to our team for really trying to make it work and be upbeat. And, it sucked for everybody and there was lots going on and, the world was a mess and the team really made it work. And I think we did a couple things as a company to try and get that going when like what we like instead of, like we always do a stand up on Monday morning where like everybody kind of gets together and like talks about like what are we doing this week, and it's very business and like this is what's happening. And we added this, I think it was Aaron who came up with this idea. It was like, let's do a Friday meeting, which is like the opposite of that. It's like feelings and talking about fast food and like just trying to feel normal again, right? To replace some of that energy, and like,
Yeah.
And that was amazing. And I think people really did get into that. But in terms of working on the show, we were lucky enough that we were in a writing phase. And so we were not having to like do daily drops and all this kind of stuff, which is stuff we're doing now. And, by the time we got to that stage, the world had already adapted to like, what is it working? Everybody's been working from home for a long time. And so I think it was much easier for us to like, just ease into like, okay, well, we're doing our reviews online as opposed to, in a room somewhere.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
Agreed.
Yeah. Cause I know it's been a struggle for a lot of companies and especially in, the entertainment business where a lot of in-person stuff is required, but of course with animation and whatnot, I don't know.
Yeah. No, by the way, like we got super lucky and we know it. Like animation and video games, we were definitely, for all the impact that the pandemic had on a lot of people and companies, being in our neck of the industry has been a lucky place to be.
Yeah, that's good. So I've seen since we last spoke, a lot of little like spin-off projects have been taking place. There's the Tales of Xadia tabletop game. There's board game with miniatures, and then there's the video game, which we haven't really heard a lot about. How does all that come together? How do you guys get involved in these projects and get other people involved? Because I know you're not. I don't know. I don't know how much involvement you have with like the tabletop game or whatever. But how does that all work?
We do have a lot of involvement, but part of the philosophy in building the Dragon Prince and Wonderstorm in general from the beginning has been, we want to build things we're building them with visionary teams. And so what that means is that you're inviting everyone sort of on the team into the process at a vision level to be pitching on the big picture, to be influencing the big picture, to be engaged with, the saga at the highest level. And so that goes for the writing team at Wonderstorm. That also goes for game designers and artists, and you just want people highly engaged. It's also gone for our partnerships, right? So when we work with Fandom or Brotherwise or Scholastic, for that matter, we don't want to be like dictating to them like, here's the property and you're kind of licensing it and we want you to do this kind of thing. We want to say, hey, like, we want to be in business with you if you love the Dragon Prince and you're excited about this world of Xadia and you want to help us build it out. And then if you have that excitement, then we're partners and we're figuring this out together. And And we try to have that feeling so that what you're doing is growing a creative team and growing a visionary creative team. So I don't know. I'm not sure I'm answering your question exactly,
No, no, it's great.
but basically that's the answer. So we're very selective about the people that we work with in terms of like these other products and these other things. And once we bring them in, like, Justin and I and the other team members at Wonderstorm interact with them regularly, but also, we kind of try to initiate people into like our way of building things and doing things, and the results have been pretty good, I think. Everything feels very authentic and built from the same world and spirit that we intended.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only thing I'd add is that because we actually own. So one thing that's a little weird about Dragon Prince is the Wonderstorm actually owns and controls the IP. We sort of effectively license it to Netflix. They don't own it. They can't. We get to control all of these side products how we want, and so all these things are actually kind of tied together. So like the Tales of Xadia game, the tabletop game that Dan and Cam and the team are working on, have core stories that actually directly tie into the IP. Like there are pieces of things that are happening there that are like directly tied into the show, or like side stories that like maybe you didn't see that in the show, but like, oh, that's where that person went, stuff like that. So we just have a lot more leeway because we don't have to go to anybody else and be like, oh, can we do that? It was just really, really nice.
Sort of the Dragon Prince extended universe.
Yeah, the XCU. That's right.
Nice. And the video game. What's the status there? What's going on in video game?
We are blasting away. I was literally working on a review like 5 seconds before I got on this podcast. So we have an amazing team. We've been able to hire just a really great team of people. Some of them you'll get to see on the at Comic-Con or have seen at Comic-Con, I guess, whenever this comes out. But we're really working hard. We've got a really top-notch team, like I said. But we're going to announce a lot more about this coming up. Unfortunately, there's some stuff that we can't say yet. But I'm super excited. I can't wait for people to actually find out what we're doing. We've been working on this since basically day one, right? Like the whole premise of Wonderstorm is to make a game and a show at the same time. Like it's not licensed. We're not sending this out or giving it to another group. Like we've hired a bunch of AAA developers to come in house and make a video game studio. And so that's what we are now. It's like, and the craziest thing since the pandemic is like, we started the pandemic with like 23 people, I think, and we're like at 50 now. So like we've hired more people in the last year and a half to work on this thing than almost any time else in the company.
Right. There's more people at Wonderstorm who we've never met than actually that we've in person.
Yes, that's right.
But yeah, to Justin's point, it's not like we've hired a group of AAA developers. Like Wonderstorm is, and I'm not sure if it's comprised or composed. Now I wish I could get my English teacher on the phone, but the company's more than 90% game developers and experienced game developers. So even the people working on the show, like I think our entire team were people who had come from game studios before, right? Who were writers and artists and people who had previously worked in game development. So from the beginning, the DNA has been that Wonderstorm's a game studio.
Huh. It's so interesting, especially since, you have 3 seasons of TV already out there. It's just, I can't think of another company that's really done that before. Like that's both making it, a TV studio and a game studio all at the same time from the beginning.
It's weird. They called us crazy back then, but we're doing it. Actually, it's true. Like it was the dream to do this and to build the Dragon Prince as both a game and a show is one that when we went to investors who more normally invested in games, they tended to go like, cool, well, you have an impressive game team, but why would you do TV? It seems like TV is not very profitable. And you're like, correct, it doesn't make really any profit at all. There's actually zero margin. And then you'd go to more traditional entertainment investors and they'd be like, well, this whole game thing seems to make a ton of money, but it's really mysterious to us which ones, fail and explode and which ones become billion-dollar mega hits. And that scares us. Whereas, they got TV more. So it was very hard to kind of find a combination of investors and partners that got the vision of building both at once, and how, the people who love kind of certain kinds of stories and certain kinds of games would love to have an authentic experience that exists in both at the same time, where one is not derivative of the other, but that they're both built to be the authentic experience. So that's the challenge. That's what we're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, that's an interest, just from the outside thinking about it, there's a lot of questions, of course, like how closely do the stories between the game and the TV show align? Like, I know it's the same world, but like in a video game, of course, there's player agency, and the stories aren't simply owned by the developer. A lot of the time, there's always some sort of element of the player agency, and that changes the nature of a story from between a video game and a TV show. So how does that jibe? How does that line up? How do you make those two things work hand in hand?
That's a really good question. I mean, I think for me, having worked in like at Naughty Dog and on like stuff that's like highly narrative driven, right? And then at Riot, where it's, there is narrative, but it's more of it's very different, right? It's a lot about player agency and all that kind of stuff. I think, the what we're trying to do is like tell amazing stories that should be told in a linear format, and not try to horn that into a video game. We're trying to make a video game that, without giving too much away, like, is like very heavily invested into player agency and into, people having a good time, giving people the tools to have a good time and play in our world and experience our world, but not be like totally beholden to like the actual like core set of rules. The rules will be very similar, but like Rayla and Viren might have an adventure in our game, and that's okay, right? Like it's okay that that's happening, as opposed to, kind of really locking in and going like, okay, well, if we're going to make a video game that's, much more like a Naughty Dog game, we would try to like really nail down like what that narrative is and all that kind of stuff. And that's not sort of the genre that we're playing in. And so we think that there's room for both, where people can come in, they watch the TV show, they cry, they laugh, all the things, hopefully. And then in the game, we kind of, Aaron always said, when we first started the company, he's always saying like, it's our turn and their turns. Like, our turn is to tell the story, right? We're telling you the story. Your turn is to come experience our world and play in it, right? Like, come in, have a great time, do stuff that you think is cool, things like that. And so that's sort of the place we're headed in with our gameplay and with the game.
I also just want to add to that like you mentioned, like it's Rayla and Viren could do something together or whatever, but it's also, the other aspect I think of the game is it really does go beyond the show. The show, we always talk about when we're doing an episode, it's like 22 minutes is not a lot of real estate, right? Or however long each episode is. And you get through the season and you do as much as you can and you explore as much of Zadia and you dive into this saga. Unfortunately, again, we've been given a lot of real estate as shows go, but that said, there's so much more we want to build out. And so there are many parts of the world, there are many parts of kind of the lore and deeper legends. And there are many characters and heroes and villains that are not in the show or not in the show yet. So I think the fun of the game ultimately will be partially experiencing the stuff you love and that you're familiar with, but also diving into aspects that are like equally as authentic and canonical as the saga you've seen so far, but you're finding it on your own. You're moving into it on your own, and you're getting deeper on your own. And some of that stuff will come back around, right? You'll experience the game, and then you'll be like, oh my gosh, it's in the next season. Oh my God, that character, or whatever it is. We want them to interweave a bit, but we definitely want, the kind of the game to be the awesomeness of the show, but also the awesomeness of itself, separate from the show, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. I mean, as much sense as it can before I've actually played it. So I
was going to say, playing it. Exactly.
And then I have to wonder what's going to come out first, the game or season 4? But I'm sure you guys can't say that. But unless you're saying it at Comic-Con, in which case.
Unfortunately, we can't say that. But let's just put it this way: we are actively working on both things very, very hard.
Yeah, and part of it is that we don't know for sure because we do not have a date yet with Netflix, and so when we say that, like it's just we don't have that date, and so we don't know for sure. And to be fair, I think we can say like they're not too far apart, so that's why it's also hard to say which would come first.
Yeah, that's right.
That's good news, though. Not too far apart. So what? Tell me a little bit about this Comic Con. I guess you're doing several panels, and I know this is kind of strange because this is posting after Comic Con. So, but what's this Comic Con look like for the Dragon Prince?
It was funny. Like I think I don't know. Yeah, Aaron, you could. We had a really good time, right? Obviously, so people hope like, okay, I'm going to say it. Spoiler: don't listen to this. Here's your chance. Hit pause. Go watch the Comic Con thing wherever it is on YouTube or whatever, or the Comic Con app, and then come back and listen to this so we can actually talk about it. So there's your spoiler alert. Um, it was a blast. Like I think getting to have, we kind of did a bunch of mini panels, on Zoom, and so we got to have like people from the game and people from like the person who runs our like or helps us run our merchandising business and like all those kinds of things kind of showing up on the panel and getting to talk about stuff. I thought that was awesome. Like I always hate that like when you go to a Comic-Con, it's really fun to interact with the fans and like we have a few people that get on the panel, but like this was like cool. You have exposure to like 10 or 15 people from Wonderstorm, not, two, not me and Aaron or not me and the writers or not Aaron and the writer, it's more like a big broad spectrum of people from the whole company. And I think that was awesome, and being able to like give that back to the fans and have them actually kind of see other people that get to do stuff in our studio. I think that was really great. And then I just really liked the last thing we did in it where we kind of legitimately read basically out of context cards from episodes of the season. That was really, really fun.
Nice. So I guess looking forward at season 4, and I guess backwards a little. Season 3 ended with an epic battle and kind of some resolution, some cliffhangers. What are you excited about for season 4, and what's coming next? And kind of I'm assuming there's going to be some pretty big sort of shifts because there was such a final note to that season, rounding out kind of maybe like the first act of a larger story.
So this is the realm of like, what are we looking forward to, but also without spoiling anything.
Right. I know it's a tough one.
I mean, there are some new characters who I'm really, really excited about. There are some changes that have occurred between seasons, some of which I think are alluded to in the graphic novel that came out, Through the Moon, which you don't need to read to understand the season, but when you start the season, the changes will have taken place, and that'll be part of the storytelling. And so, I'm excited to see the characters grapple with those changes. I'm being so vague; it's horrible.
It's okay. I get it.
But it's good to see everyone. I think what is hard to realize is how much everyone grew and changed during those 3 seasons. And so as we were writing season 4 in particular, like the fullness of the characters that we were writing for was really evident. I think that felt really good. So, I hope that people who have fallen in love with these characters, we'll feel it too. We'll feel like, oh, these characters are more themselves than they've ever been. Also, obviously, the sort of twist ending of season 3 is a big deal, and sort of seeing that play out and what that means, that that Viren and Claudia went through the experience that they went through, I think is really interesting. The aftermath of that is pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm sure people. I know I'm in a Facebook group with a Dragon Prince fan group, and people are they're very, very passionate about these characters, and there's a lot of great fan art. There's a lot of great.
There's so much great art.
Yeah, and just so many. It's just interesting to see all the posts where people are speculating and theorizing, and there's a lot of mystery still from the first 3 seasons that has yet to be answered and fleshed out.
There is a lot of mystery. I agree, and I think that sense of mystery is something that's going to be rewarded in the coming seasons, in particular. I think it gets more Dragon Princey and more Like we're really proud of this, and we feel we've seen the team and the broader animation team. So when I say the team, I mean over 200 people respond to the new stories and the new scripts really wonderfully. So that gives us a good indicator that we're going in a good direction and that there's something very exciting and compelling happening in the coming seasons. Um, I don't know. Justin and I have moments all the time where we're working in the morning on a story, and we'll go, "Wow, years from now, we're going to look back on this as just like one of the luckiest creative moment of our lives." Like to be building this saga with this amazing team, and as you said, like you're with such a huge group of people who are passionate about it at such a in such the right way about the characters and the details and all those things, where you can be creative and engage in that and know that it's going to be experienced deeply, and I don't know, it's very exciting, and I think it's going to be I think people are going to love it. I don't know. I think it's going to be good. I think there's going to be some stuff that's going to torture them and make folks sad, but that's always the Dragon Prince way. So
Here's a question: dragons, baby dragons. What kind of like? How long does it take? Because the other really cute character other than Zim in TV right now is Baby Yoda, and we know it takes Baby Yoda a long time to grow up.
Yeah,
man, that really let us off the hook with Zim, didn't it?
Yeah.
It sure did.
Those are like the two cutest characters on
season
TV.
4 and have Zim go, "Hi, everybody."
Yeah.
I'm just, how long does it take a dragon to grow up? Like these dragons are old, right?
I think it's not like, I think decades. I think they grew up so fast in Game of Thrones. I don't think it's.
Oh yeah, right.
I think it's much slower. I think it's decades.
They grew up so fast and they died off so quick in Game of Thrones.
Yeah. Yes. We have more of them, fortunately. So.
Yes, and more colorful ones.
Yes,
and more variety.
Right. That's right.
Not to talk crap about Game of Thrones, but those are sort of joyless dragons. I don't know. I feel like they just didn't have. They didn't really. I mean, they were good special effects, but I feel like the dragons could have had more of that something. I don't know, character.
I mean, look, if Benioff and Weiss had asked us for anything on this, like as an example, like Zim, when we're writing for Zim, a dragon, a character who is a dragon, you very often find a moment for something like zappy kisses. Maybe these dragons could have found their own types of kisses that they were going to give. Yeah. I don't know what kisses the Game of Thrones dragons would have given, but something.
It's funny. I suspect they were up against the wall in that where they had this limitation where they had to be super fierce and they had to be like somewhat reasonable and they knew that they were going to die. Like, I think, that's a really hard place to be, right? Like someone else had told them, like, I think, from what I've heard, like they knew the end. And so it was like, they got to end up here. That's a hard place to be no matter what.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I feel bad for those guys because, Martin is a great writer, but man, is he a slow writer. I mean, I keep, every few years I write another article about how we're still waiting for those books because I think I started reading Game of Thrones before I went to college, and now like several presidents, a few wars, and a global pandemic later, we're still waiting. So I don't know, getting caught with a show, an adaptation for a show where you're working off source material and then suddenly it ends. That's something at least you guys don't ever have to worry about.
No, we just have to worry about it. We just stop making stuff that's any good that we think of.
Well, sure, true. Everyone has to worry about that if you're doing anything that requires creativity. But at least you guys have your own. I mean, it must be kind of nice to control your own IP. To have, I mean, there's extra risk and whatnot, but it must be kind of cool to have that independence.
I mean, literally, we were finishing a script. We were finishing the script today, and Aaron was like, in like 10 years, we're going to be working on something that we're going to have to send into like a studio and they're going to have to give us notes or whatever. And like, we're going to long for the day when we could just be like, yeah, the script is done. Like no one can tell us it's not, and that's definitely going to happen, I think.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, because you guys both worked on, on other projects in the past. And I mean, I guess, is this the first time you've kind of had this level of creative control?
I
Or
think as a technicality, yes, which is to say, like in this case, we founded Wonderstorm, so we own the studio, and of course, you always have to like Netflix has the final say. It's either going to go on Netflix or it's not. So
sure.
they have final say. But yeah, as a studio, we get to say when the script is done and when we're ready. Um, I would say on Avatar, it was comparable, but more out of like what Nickelodeon had set up, which was a very creator driven, very like the executives there had taken a very strong posture of we will support what you are trying to make, whatever that is. And so it did create that kind of freedom and ability to make final decisions. And to some degree, that's what we borrowed trying to create Wonderstorm, was the philosophy that I experienced, 15 or 20 years, however long ago it was now at Nickelodeon.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, Naughty Dog was similar, I think, to what we have here. I mean, they're a very different studio, but I'll never forget the first, I don't know, one of the first days when I was directing on Uncharted, and I went into Evan's office. Evan Wells is president of the company and really smart. He's actually like one of the best game designers on the planet. Like, I wish that guy still got to actually game design. He's so good. And I went in for advice on something, and he's like, "Well, what do you think?" And I was like, "Well, I don't know. I think this." He's like, "Then that's what we're doing." And like, he would back me up 1,000,000% on anything, or me or Amy or Rob or any of the team. Like, if we had an idea and we wanted to do it and it was expensive and hard or like crazy and hard or whatever, he was like, "Man, yeah, I'll stop Sony from messing with you guys if I need to. Like, you go, you make the thing." And like, he was very, very good at, or him and Christoph were both very good at sort of like saying, "You guys have the vision, make it happen. We'll worry about the money and we'll worry about the other stuff. And if it gets totally out of hand, we'll come talk to you." And so I think that was a similar situation to this, a little different, like with a huge corporate, sort of master, but they kind of stayed out of our way. It was really nice.
Yeah, that's cool. I guess that kind of, that would feed into how you guys approach things now, running this. Speaking of Avatar,
so.
or sorry, go.
No, I was gonna say I think so. I mean, I think like Aaron said, like it was one of the hardest things I ever did, but also like one of the most rewarding and like best experiences too. So like, I definitely think that gets into your bones at some point, and you're like, "Oh man, that was great. How do I do that again?"
Well, the Uncharted games are so great. I mean,
I can't disagree.
Amazing. And Avatar got a big boost.
Season 4 has a lot of references to.
That's true. Season 4 does have some a lot of fun, some Uncharted stuff in it. That's true.
Oh yeah, is there lots of climbing?
I don't want to say anything. You'll see. You'll see what's going on. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, Dragon Prince as a treasure hunting adventure. Totally, I could see it. So I was just gonna say, Avatar. That was pretty cool to see on Netflix when it landed and just got a huge new influx of new fans and attention, and it was just like the biggest thing ever for a bit. Almost like a new.
Yeah, that was no joke.
Life. Yeah, it was crazy.
15-year-old cartoon was the #1 show on Netflix for I think longer than any other show in 2020.
Yeah,
#1 show on Netflix. 15-year-old cartoon. That's pretty crazy. That's pretty crazy. So anyway, I was definitely proud of that. I was definitely excited about it. You would hope that maybe some networks would be like, yeah, we should make more things like this.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see if that happens, because we're not sure if that has happened. But yes, Avatar crushed it during the summer, and then, and none of those networks would ever buy Avatar ever again. They just wouldn't.
Yeah,
my kids watch it like the third time. Yeah.
Well, I know we were excited to find Dragon Prince because I know that like I was Googling, before Dragon Prince came out, I was Googling like shows that are like Avatar: The Last Airbender, because I'm like, I need to find cartoons and shows I can watch with my kids that I also like, because that doesn't always line up. And of course, they were a lot younger back then. But and it's funny, of course, then Korra came to Netflix, and then there's the great Korra versus Avatar debate that I never even knew existed within the fandom until one of my family friends, their daughter, tried to argue with me that Korra was terrible compared to Avatar, and I was arguing with her about how I liked both of them, and then she revealed to me that she had never even watched Korra, that this was all stuff she was getting from YouTube. And I was like, okay, no. You had me for a second, you seemed pretty smart, but now you're telling me you didn't even watch it. But
I think Janet Varney is doing a podcast right now, right? Didn't she just start something up to talk about Avatar? I think.
I don't know.
I think I thought I saw something like that. Anyway,
cool. Yeah. Yeah, there aren't enough shows like Avatar, like The Dragon Prince. I mean, there are some other cool shows, like younger audience shows on Netflix. Like, I really did enjoy the new Dark Crystal show. Did you guys check that out?
Yeah, it was great.
That was pretty wild, huh?
It was really fun. It's too bad it should have gotten another season.
Yeah. I know. I'm sure it was a fortune to make that, though.
I was going to say, it looked very expensive.
Yeah. Yeah, imagine making all those amazing puppets or Muppets or whatever, but yeah, it's super expensive. Well, cool. I don't want to keep you guys too long. We can do kind of a shorter podcast here, and then maybe we can do a follow-up one when the game and the next season are, have some actual footage or hands-on or whatever.
Anytime, man. Anytime.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Because I really, I look forward to actually. I have the Tales of Xadia playtest, which I keep meaning to actually try out, but it's been difficult to.
Cool. There's another one coming
together,
too.
But,
so there's another playtest coming. So.
Oh, nice, cool, yeah. It seems like an interesting game system. I love tabletop games, and I think I love the concepts behind them, like how they work, almost more than playing them. But
Cortex is a really interesting system. I mean, one of the reasons
it seems like
so much. Yeah, it's like it's got a lot of story, like very heavy emphasis on storytelling and like getting the players to like get out of just like kill everything mode, and I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, as fun as killing everything is, it wouldn't really fit the vibe of the Dragon Prince. It's not really a kill everything show.
Yeah.
Well, great.
30% of things.
Yeah, 30% of things. Just and then hopefully maybe try to get redemption and and character development in there also. Well, awesome. I wish you guys the best of luck, and thank you for taking your time to do this. And I hope we can talk soon.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
More news soon. Yeah, totally.
We really appreciate everything you've said about the show and that you're such a big fan. So thank you so much.
Yeah, well, it's true. So and everybody listening to this or watching this, definitely check out The Dragon Prince on Netflix. There's 3 seasons, and they do form kind of I'm not going to say a complete arc, but it is sort of like a beginning, middle, and end within those 3 seasons, with a lot of really great character development. Really, really strong character arcs, and I think if you like character-driven fantasy, it's something to definitely check out. So, give that a watch.
Cool.
All right, take care, guys.
Thanks.